Okay. So another podcast, but this one, I am under so much pressure because this was not scheduled. It's not a scheduled podcast. And I'm sitting with probably some of the most knowledgeable people, not one, but two of them, and one from the West and another one from the East. I am with Ron Young, who is an advisor for knowledge for MBRF,
Knowledge and AI, yes.
for knowledge and AI.
Knowledge, innovation, and AI.
Wow.
And how the three work together, or can work together.
Wow. And then also on my left-hand side is Naoki Ogiwara, who is also an expert in knowledge from the East. And this is an exception because we don't do a podcast with three people, so we're borrowing the mic. I'm just going to keep on switching the mic back and forth. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
For being with us.
Thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
I think Naoki is also, I would say, the innovation guy.
Wow.
Knowledge and innovation.
Knowledge and innovation.
Yes.
I would say knowledge, innovation, change. That's my topics.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Okay, I want to start by talking about. I want to catch up a little bit with what we were discussing before
Sure.
the podcast, and we were talking about what we call the Dunning-Kruger effect, where you give someone a little bit of knowledge and they seem to be so confident with it, so confident, and they fight for it until the last breath. And then the more knowledge you acquire, the more humble you become, even in knowledge. So you start accepting that maybe you know so much, but you come to a point where you start questioning everything you know. True?
Yes.
How does that translate, Ron?
Well, what you're describing actually also is well known in coaching cycles in a shorter period of time, where an individual, and I'm sure you'll recognize this, an individual gets a little piece of knowledge and they think they know it all and they go off and they don't need you anymore and they know absolutely everything until they come crashing down in the application of that knowledge, because it's probably not deep enough, and by deep enough I mean they haven't yet had enough experience of applying it. So they rush off, they know everything, they know it all, and they crash down, and then they become a little more humble and say, well, maybe I should learn gradually with you. I think that in the coaching cycle is what we also see over life as well, that we tend to go through a stage where we think it's all about knowledge, and then suddenly we get to that same stage where we sit back and we reflect and say, hold on a moment. There's a much bigger world out there than I originally thought, and I've just realized that I know so little. And you start to become more understanding that, as we were saying earlier, in the earlier years, you might see yourself on the top of a pyramid, an ego-driven approach. And lower levels of knowledge or life forms below you. But you get to a stage where you go, it's not about ego, it's I'm part of an ecosystem of which we're all forms of natural intelligence, animal, insect, but the cosmos, everything. We're just a part of that. And so that humility sets in my opinion anyway, in my experience. And you suddenly realize you know absolutely nothing in this total.
And Ron, when you came in,
Yeah.
you had the company of this beautiful gentleman sitting next to me, and you told me that while you bring the Western side of knowledge, there is a whole other version called the Eastern side of knowledge, which I would love to hear about that from you.
Thank you. Well, traditionally, Western approach towards knowledge treat knowledge as a kind of object separated from individuals, which is manageable. That's why we call this thing knowledge management. However, in the Eastern approach towards knowledge, we come to see that the knowledge is inseparable from human being, so that we cannot directly manage itself. That's why we also stress the importance of tacit dimension of knowledge, not explicit part of knowledge. And the key concept that comes in to this thinking is what we call ba. It's a Japanese or Chinese term which directly means time and space shared by people. For instance, this is our ba shared by three of us, where knowledge can flow through the kind of interactions and also through the kind of trust relationship. So one of our key concept of managing knowledge, or say creation of knowledge, is to create a kind of good path in which knowledge flows from people to people, in which we co-create knowledge together, to which is a kind of source of new values. That's kind of the approach from, say, Oriental kind of
What's your
perspective.
approach to knowledge?
That's
Does that differ from the Western approach?
I think the emphasis is different. I think Naoki would agree. There is a recognition of the flow of knowledge in Western approach, but the emphasis is far more in the Eastern Japanese approach to the tacit knowledge in our heads and the flow. And the West is probably a bit too much emphasis on knowledge as an codifiable object. It's a bit like quantum science, isn't it? We've got electrons and waveforms, and 1 minute it's a wave and the next minute it's an electron. It's emphasis. I would say that Eastern is far more emphasis on flow of knowledge, and Western approach is how can we capture it in knowledge bases and things like that, more digital. And what we're now looking at with AI and digital transformation is how we can better put the two together, more balanced approach, which is really what the brain is, isn't it? We've got a brain which is patterns and neural networks on one side of us and flow, and we've got the digital logical side of us, and it's getting the two brains to work together.
Wow. I just want to quote something here. Ron, you're a thought leader in strategic knowledge asset management. Is knowledge an asset?
Right. Well, I think to answer that question, you need to, from my perspective, my first job, I was articled to a chartered accountant, to be an accountant. And most people go through life only aware of income and expenditure and budgeting to make sure that we're living within our means if we can, income and expenditure. But what I first realized in accountancy is, in addition to income and expenditure, you've got the balance sheet where you look at the assets in the organization and how these assets can be used and what are these assets. When I looked at that and applied that to the world of knowledge and innovation, I personally believe that the greatest knowledge asset ever is the human being. The ability of the human being is an asset. Some people might have difficulty in accepting that terminology, but to me, we have digital assets and digital asset management. We have financial assets and financial asset management, but we also have we tend to call it human resource management. I don't think humans are resources. I think they are assets. I don't like the term. My HR friends hate me for it, but I would rather be a human asset manager, because assets we can gain wealth in whatever way we manage wealth and success through the wise application of our assets. And that's what people are. If we could look at people more as assets, I think it would be better than just looking at them as a resource. That's my point.
Yeah.
And therefore, strategic asset management, strategic knowledge asset management, is applying human knowledge assets in the best possible way to achieve the organization's objectives, together with digital assets supporting that.
We go back to the point where you said human and knowledge inseparable, right?
Right. So, yeah, well, we still believe that, knowledge asset management is critical. However, it's not like tangible asset management. In the tangible asset management, you can assume that everything is on the list. In intangible asset management, you still try to come up with a list, but you can't come up with a perfect list, as there are a lot of invisible aspects, which is more valuable. So instead of trying to come up with a perfect list, you try to kind of segment key knowledge assets, which are the source of the values of your organization. And so long as you have that kind of, key domains of your values, chances are that you come up with a better ways of leveraging your intangible assets.
Well, I have a question, and I think it's in the core of. It's very interesting to me. I don't think a civilization had so much access to knowledge as much as we have today.
Yeah.
On a global level.
Right.
So if you look at today, at a certain point in time, the knowledge itself was so inaccessible that only a few people had access to it. And that's why you saw great knowledgeable men having superior positions in societies where they transfer knowledge to the elites of the elitist of that society.
Yeah.
Aristotle, all the philosophers, right? They have the knowledge, nobody else did, and they transferred it. Today, we have so much knowledge flowing. What is the biggest risk we face today, especially with the appearance of AI, the easy access to knowledge? What's the biggest risk we face today? And I want to hear both of your opinions.
Okay. Do you want to go first or shall I go? All right.
I told you, humble. Look, no, who wants to go first? They push. They're reluctant to get. Those are amongst the most knowledgeable people I ever met in my life, and they're pushing the buck.
Here's my take on it. We talk about, as you've said, so much knowledge available. I'm going to challenge that. I think so much information is available. Knowledge is when we apply if I can pump all the information to you in seconds around the planet. You can have all of my PowerPoint slides, you can have all of my podcasts, you can have everything I've ever codified. I can put that to you with technology. You can have it all in seconds, but you don't have the knowledge. You have the information. Because to turn that into knowledge, you have to do two things. You have to apply the learning process to that information yourself. Do I believe this? Do I not believe this? Do I want to incorporate this into my own unique knowledge or not? So there is the learning process that's fundamental to doing it. The second point's gone, but it'll come back in a moment. So the key thing is that the world is full of information and desperately needs methods, tools, and techniques to help human beings turn that into knowledge as quickly as they can. And at the moment, the key thing is reflection. Most knowledge workers today, in my opinion, are information workers and overloaded information workers. Let AI do some of that information work and allow humans to reflect the space to reflect and learn. That was the other thing, reflection, to be able to actually go deeper from information into deeper knowledge. And that's what humanity should be about. And I think AI is going to allow, but once we've got over the fear and the turbulent transition, humans will have the time to reflect And then you'll see a creativity that you don't see today in the overworked, information-driven society.
Right. And adding what Ron just said, as we are in the era that everybody has access to the AI-based knowledge, the judgment along with the reflection is becoming more and more important. But however, to have a good judgment, you need to have a lot of experiences. That is really a kind of one challenge of nowadays, I believe, because to come up with that judgment with a lot of experience, you need to start with a kind of grounded work. That's how we developed a career. And for instance, Ron has reached that level, so he's fine with working with AI. However, say younger consultant, younger professionals who need to do a kind of experience, there's no longer such work as that kind of grounded work. Like for instance, for consulting cases, you take minutes, right? But taking minutes no longer exists because that's done by AI. So the challenge is how do we give a kind of good opportunity for younger generations to get that reasonable experience so that they can get a better judgment. That is, I think, one key existing nowadays.
Another thing, Naoki, I was thinking earlier, having all that information, as you said, when you were describing it, Ron, and now when you confirm that, there is a verse in the Quran that says, those who have the information and don't use it are very similar to a donkey carrying books on his back.
Perfect. I love it.
Right?
I love it.
And the description is so vivid. كَمَثَلِ الْحِمَارِ يَحْمِلُ أَسْفَارًا. Right? So he used the name, and he did not, it's not demeaning for the donkey at all.
No.
Because that's his job, to carry books and move them around.
Yeah.
But it's a way where it tells you, if you are being given the information, but you carry that information and don't apply it, don't turn it into knowledge, it's very similar to a donkey carrying lots of books. But what are you doing with those books? So if I put 17 books of the greatest books in heart surgery and put it on a donkey, he's got the information with him. Can he operate? I don't think you would want that donkey to operate on you, right? Not at all. So the question that I have is, with the rise of AI and the accessibility of knowledge and the ability to feed that information, that machine that we've created, which is the World Wide Web, or call it the cyber world, whatever you want to call it, right? We fed it so much information. Can this information also be poisoned?
Sure. This is where we get to the darker side, isn't it? I mean, I think you said that can it be poisoned? Is that, Frankly, I never thought I would experience in my life another Oppenheimer time where we as humans create a technology which can either create wonderful things for humanity or destroy us. AI has that potential. AI itself, as we all know, is a neutral technology. It's the use of AI by humanity. And that's why, of course, ethics is critical. Governance is critical. Security is critical. AI could infiltrate our value chains for food, value chains for energy, military usage. The darker side is not so good. The upside is absolutely fantastic. AI is with us. Humanity has created it. It's our role now to make sure that we have the transition for the good of humanity. And hopefully, we will not see what I fear we're going to see for a short while, a turbulent transition, the misuse of information and what we're seeing now, fakes. For example, I've just finished a talk where I've been demonstrating a digital twin of myself. It's easy for anybody to create a digital twin of anybody, but the platform that I'm using currently is a platform that says it will not create any digital twins unless it can be proved that that digital twin is the right person and they've consented to it. We need a lot more regulation like that coming in to protect the individual. But until that's there, there's going to be a bit of turbulence. Yeah.
As Ron said, the technology itself is neutral. However, the more powerful the technology becomes, the more good ethics you have to have. I have a good friend who is insisting that nowadays you need an in-house philosopher because your organization would have to have your own ethics code
Yeah.
to work with AI and make it as a kind of good way. So that's, I think, a common challenge globally, that you need to have your own ethics code also shared by all the employees in your organization.
Look, this podcast could go on for hours. I can't thank you enough for being here, and I can't thank you enough for introducing me to Naoki Ogiwara. I got it right?
Yep.
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you for being part of the summit. Thank you for doing what you're doing, because I'll tell you what, it makes me feel a lot safer knowing that there are people that dedicated their life to ensuring that information is turned into knowledge and making sure that AI is being governed and policed by people that have such high ethics. So once again, thank you so much for being with us on this podcast, and thank you for doing what you're doing.
Thank you very much, and we hope we may see you again next year.
Look, I thank you very much.